psychologist. All right, today's topic is something that I see posted almost every day. Saw it today already. The question is, how do I coordinate clients' due dates so that I don't have two clients in labor at the same time? Now, I don't want to show my answer too early in this segment, but here's the answer, really. Gotta say right off the top, you can't coordinate due dates, so stop trying. Unless you really want to only have one client a month, which means that being a birth doula is not your full-time gig, and you've got other things that you're coordinating around it to make up your income, there is really no way to ensure that you don't have two clients in labor at the same time. Now, after 17 years of doing this work, I can tell you that I can count on one hand how many times I've had two clients in labor at the same time. And I will promise you, they were never clients that had due dates anywhere near each other. They're actually often the clients that have one is 2 weeks late and one is a week early. Those are the ones that tend to conflict. And so really there's no way to coordinate due dates. Stop trying. But now let's talk a little bit about due dates and what's involved in a due date anyhow. Have you ever really looked into where that comes from and the concept of a due date? A due date is based on a few different things. Number one, it's based on knowing exactly when someone's first day of their last menstrual cycle started. Number one. The second thing is that it assumes that everyone has a 28-day cycle and ovulates on day 14. Now we know that both of those things aren't true, right? Lots of people have cycles that are varying lengths other than 28 days, and not everyone ovulates on day 14. So a due date is really just a guesstimate. I'm going to tell you a story. I remember a few years ago, I had a family, an immigrant family here from Syria, and they were in our birth doula program that we have at our local hospital. And I remember going to do their intake assessment with them, and I was asking, hey, what is the due date? And the partner was interpreting for me because the pregnant person didn't speak English. And so I said, what is the due date? And they interpreted that, and the client made a funny face and looked at him again, and he looked at me again, and I said, the due date, when the baby's coming. And he tried to explain it again, and she made a funny face again, and he came back to me a third time, and I said, like the due date, like when is the baby coming? He goes, we don't know what that is. April? And I thought, oh my gosh, of course. They're coming from a place where they didn't have a lot of access to medical care, and it didn't have this concept of a really, really specific due date. And so really it was a time frame. And it was interesting in that moment, both for me, it was a really important cultural awareness piece for me to understand and learn about. But the other thing that it made me realize is it actually kind of made my heart a little bit sad, because I realized how much we hyper-focus on this one day that only a few small percentages of people are going to actually be having their baby on that day. It's so rare. We know that 95% of people are going to have their baby between 38 weeks and 42 weeks. So that's when we're having a baby. And it's like that client who said to me, April, And I think we need to start both talking to our clients in those terms and making sure that we're looking at it as an approximate time frame. In fact, I actually try to discourage my clients from saying their due date too often, because that makes us hyper-focus on this one day. And given that the majority of our first-time clients are going to go past their quote-unquote due date, what makes them feel like they're late. It makes them feel like there's something wrong. And we know that those things aren't true. If we actually sort of step back a little bit and think about why babies come when they do, and did you know that we actually don't really know why babies come when they do? We have some theories around babies secreting different hormonal substances into their urine, and then we pick that up through the absorption through our placenta, and then it signals to our brain that the baby is ready. We also have some theories around distension, and there's some really interesting new theories around metabolism. But the truth of the matter is, for a species that knows so much about the human body, we really know just a tiny little bit about the human body. And we don't really understand why babies come when they do. So what that tells us is that there's a lot of complex things that are happening and that go into it. If we actually dig deep into hormones, and I encourage you to look into Sarah Buckley's information and research on hormones, which I find really interesting and very, very complete in sort of the meta-analysis and their systematic reviews of different topics. There's some things that we know that are happening late in pregnancy that are preparing baby for life on the outside world. We know that the way that our body releases oxytocin is going to help prepare our babies for breathing. We know that the way certain hormones are changing and shifting in our body are actually going to calm our baby's brain activity to prepare our baby for the stress of labor and the less oxygenation that they're going to get through that experience. We know that the hormones changing in our body are going to prepare our babies and ourselves to regulate their temperature and their heat at birth. And there's so many really amazing things that are happening hormonally when we allow babies to come when they do. And so I think that would be such a much better focus is for us to talk to our clients in those terms of all of those amazing preparations that are happening to get babies ready. If we start to think more about due dates, in terms of just all of those amazing hormonal preparations that are happening, let's take the focus off of that one independent date. If we do that, our clients are going to have a more interesting experience waiting for this magical moment without so much stress and anxiety. And also as doulas that we can do the same. So I've talked about this in previous episodes, but one of the things I strongly recommend is that you live like you're not on call. So be prepared like you're on call, but live like you're not. Buy the tickets to the event. Plan the party, do the things. And yes, once in a while you're going to get called and you're going to miss the event. Twice now I've had to cancel an event and lost money on tickets that I've paid for because of births. But over the course of my career and over the course of a year, that doesn't happen all that often. So do the things and have fun, and don't try to plan and script your clients' birth dates and labor time frames. You're never going to be able to do that, so stop trying, because it's keeping you in that same mindset that is actually causing our clients those issues around impatience and expecting that we can control this and plan for this. So instead, take the number of clients that your life can handle over a 1 month period, whether that's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Now, typically a full-time birth doula and someone who's exclusively doing birth doula work would be looking at probably about 4 clients a month. And, shockingly, I think one of the things that's amazing to me is how rarely they actually collide and that they're both in labor at the same time. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are times that I was, 20 hours out of birth, came home for a couple of hours and got called out again to go to another one. But those things don't happen all that often. And then the great thing is that you'll have a few days after that usually to make up for it. The other thing that I cannot stress enough is the importance of having a backup doula. Now, I don't care whether you have 1 client or 4 clients a month, you have to have a backup doula. That is just a necessity of this profession. When someone's expecting to have a doula, whether it's pro bono or a full fee doula, they have to have that doula at their birth. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you, but it does have to be a doula. So please make sure you're always working with a backup doula. And if in those rare occurrences that something does come up, your client is reassured that there will be someone else there for them. So I hope that helps a little bit, get you thinking about due dates and how that all comes to be, and hopefully you can stop agonizing now about how many clients you should take and how you should schedule them. Good luck with your doula's career. Talk to you soon, doulas. Bye.